Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Today I'm hanging out with one of the time and attention guys. Dark.Star is here to talk about all things Splinterlands. But as we were just kind of getting online here and starting the conversation, a couple topics came up. Land, Chaos Legion, and of course the GLUSD or GUSD controversy that we heard about through the Discord and the Mavs. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this, and Darkstar, I know you're feeling the same way. You're not 100% sure. Let's summarize very quickly, and I'll throw to you because I think you just did a good job of it before we started recording. What is this GLX issue, and why is there a lot of kind of I think tension in the Mav chat at this moment around this issue?
Well, I think effectively what happened was Gene Pool, along with some others, I'm not sure who else was involved, managed to pull together quite a bit of GLX. Sorry, no, they pulled together it would have been Hive on it. They pulled together quite a bit of money and used that to market buy GLX from Hive Engine, which drove the price of GLX up quite high. They then burnt all that GLX to get GUSD while the price was still high, and I think subsequently the price came back down quite quickly. One thing they did this very early in the morning for me. I think it was about 6 a.m. Which, because I don't know how, if a lot of people have argued that they shouldn't have been doing this and they shouldn't have taken advantage of things in this way, but obviously it's the lack of liquidity that was the problem. I don't know if they've technically done anything wrong or not, but if they'd announced to everybody that they were doing it and people hadn't managed to put up buy walls and whatnot, and everybody had seen it happen, if there were people online and they were planning to convert the GLX themselves anyway, would they have done it at the same time to take advantage of the price spike? Or would they have also been against that as well? And it's the kind of, where do you sit morally with it? A lot of the time, is it just because you've missed out that you're frustrated, or is it, are you purely against it? And I think there's a few people that will be very heavily moraled with things that they would never, they kind of always be against anything like that, and they'd always stand by their own kind of morals in some way. But a lot of people, I just think it's more because they missed out than anything else.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think there's probably some truth to that. Having said that, when I first heard about this, and I should give credit where credit's due, I was listening to Walking Keys and Gang talking about this on their live last night, maybe. And I was really astonished. I had heard about this through, I think, the recent town hall where we heard, I think, Agro or Matt or one of the team members speak to how they were going to, they spoke to how the 5 minutes. So the system analyzes the price of the GLX token on a basis of 5 minutes, and it would algorithmically, I guess, like there's some sort of algorithm running it, and it would update the price. Like if the trading volume was reflecting that actually the price should be 20% higher than it was, because this token was being traded for GUSD, and so it's like on a 5 minute rolling basis, the value would be increasing or decreasing based on those previous 5 minutes of activity, buying and selling. And so they took advantage of that to really attack and do a 5 minutes, like you say, purchase, which drives buying up the whole market, buying up all the sell volume, all of the asks, and then that drives the price up, which affects the value of those GLX tokens when being exchanged for GUSD. And I mean, you're right. There's nothing. Like, it's not, I don't think it's illegal, and it's certainly not, there's nothing explicitly, wrong about it, but at the same time, it strikes me as inappropriate, and I can't properly articulate, why. I guess it's like this sense, and maybe there is a part of me where it's like, I don't know, if the opportunity were in front of me, would I do the same thing? I don't think so. And maybe that's just me in hindsight trying to make myself feel good about myself. I don't know. But,
I think if you asked everybody that question now, I think nearly everybody would say, oh, no, I wouldn't be involved in anything like this. But if the opportunity had come along to them, at the time, so if you put your money in this, you'll effectively 3x, your investment. Put $1,000 in, you'll get $3,000 worth of assets.
Yeah.
I don't know if people would necessarily be as strong moral standing wise as what they might claim. I think it's just human nature, isn't it, really?
Well, let me ask you a question then, because we talked about this briefly before we went live, and maybe people don't know this, but Dark.Star was really helpful as you guys know who follow the channel, you know that I arranged a large bulk buy for Chaos Legion way back, like not during it wasn't during the Dr. Blight stage, but it was like, I think right as the general sale began, if I recall correctly. And you were part of that, and then you were really supportive and integral in kind of helping facilitate the airdrop distribution. So thank you for all of that help, by the way. I think I've said that before, but just again and again, thank you. But something that comes to my mind is like, we myself as like a representative of this community with a name that people have come to know, not everybody, but many, I feel as though there's, and Gene Pool to my mind is in there. Like he has like, I think he has YGG ties. He facilitated his own group buy, or helped facilitate for the YGG people, I think.
I was involved in that as well.
Yeah. And so I feel as though there's like, and then he was voted as a community representative for Splinterlands. Yeah. And so the question I'm trying to raise, and I don't even quite know how to articulate the question is there not some kind of, I don't know, exploit of the reputation that he's begun to build? And hey, I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm actually just asking the question. I'm trying to think this through. I'm trying to I met Gene Pool at Splinterfest. Seemed like a nice guy. I'm not sure this sits well with me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Dark.Star.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, I've thought about it a bit recently. I keep kind of jumping in my chat and seeing lots of these comments flying around, deciding whether I should write anything or not. And I wrote something briefly, I think when it first came out the day after. But I've not really said much since then, because I think it's difficult, because there's a lot of people kind of getting angry and upset. And I think, well, if I'm going to spend 20 minutes writing something, I want somebody to have at least read it. And I think a lot of people might gloss over it. I think he's been in the game. Well, I think he's been around slightly less than I have, but he's significantly better known. I think most people in the space are going to know who he is. And I think that's perhaps some of the reason why people haven't looked favourably upon what he's done. But I think it's a grey area at worst.
Yeah.
I think if it was some sort of shadow character and we didn't know who was involved, and this was just, which happens all the time.
Yeah.
There's a pump, people take advantage of price things, and I mean, it's crypto. It happens on Hive, doesn't it? I think sometimes.
Yeah.
And people, it barely kind of crosses anybody's radar that it's even happened.
Wow.
Whereas at the moment, it seems to be really on the forefront now. I think it's a bit unfair. I think he's kind of getting the short end of the stick in some ways, in that the fault, to some extent, I think, should be put at Splinterlands' feet. They should have put better liquidity in place and things in place to stop this. According to the chat, they've been warned that this could happen at some point. It was a matter of when, rather than if, and they didn't do anything to stop it. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if I can personally dislike the person for doing this, because I don't think he's done anything really wrong. He didn't abuse his position as community leader. It's not like he's gone out and scammed anyone or done anything untoward in that regard.
Yeah.
He's just pushed the price up and converted assets when they were in his favour.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and I think he just seemed to be really taken. He seems to be getting a lot of flack, and perhaps some of it's fair, perhaps some of it's not. I don't know, but I think all of the frustration that might have been directed at Splinterlands previously and the team, he seems to be taking a good chunk of that. But he was just obviously the character that acted out rather than the core issue.
There's no issue of spicy, salty characters in this space. Even when things are flying high, there's somebody who's got a hot take and a critical word. And I don't mean to create this video to like pile on. I hear what you're saying, and I almost, in some sense, yeah. I mean, it's not illegal. I guess the point where maybe I feel it's like perhaps unsavory, is just from the nature of like his, let's say, his public figure, his public stature. And then, it wasn't just him that it's like, it'd be one thing too, if it was like you acting alone and you bought up the sell volume and drove the price. And, that happened, that literally happens all the time in crypto. It does. It 100% does. In fact, if we get listed, if we aim to get SPS listed on a exchange, this like necessarily happens. This is why exchanges like to do new listings for communities that have some sort of excitement around them because they expect that they're going to get paid with your token, and two, when it goes live, they can sell into the buying pressure. There's like a there. So this is just part of crypto, but at the same time, I just wonder, and again, nobody's perfect, and I don't know, man, but I just like, as a community member, and I heard Gank was calling for him to be kind of to step down, and this isn't even Splinterlands exactly. GLG is a separate entity.
Yeah.
I mean, that complicates things even more to me. How do you feel about, if nothing else, forget about like, it's not illegal, we agree, maybe it's a bit unsavory, but it is what it is. But where do you stand on maybe his position as one of the community representatives at this point?
I think if he'd used his position in any way to take advantage, but then I'd be more against it. But as far as I'm aware, he hasn't. Unless he used his position to kind of bring people on board to raise capital. So no, you can trust me. This is what we're doing to find them. That would have been, obviously we don't know what was said behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But with that not being the case, I'm not sure if I've certainly not got as much of a problem with it as a lot of people, I think. I mean, I've not really spoken out. Well, obviously I was speaking out here with you.
Yeah.
Basically saying that I think he's getting a bit of a harsh end of the deal, but I've not really commented much in public chat. Oh wow, price of that's fallen.
Yeah. Is this a product of the controversies, you think? Or is this?
No, I don't, I think some people are selling off, so it could be to do with that. I mean, if anything, I thought the price might have gone up a bit because obviously the node sales are on Wednesday, aren't they?
But you know what? Crypto is just kind of taking a licking today, 6, 7, 10%.
Everything's taking a bit of a dive. But yeah, it is a difficult one. I think the other thing that I'd have to really kind of come back and look at really is I would like to know who was involved.
Yeah.
And I would like to know specifically what they did with the proceeds.
Yeah.
Because if they've just converted it all to packs,
yeah,
and they are now staking the packs, and then what are they going to do with the packs? Because if they suddenly liquidate all those packs, then that's obviously more. If they converted, say, I don't know what would have come back to. Was it 50 grand? I don't know if that was 50 grand pre or post pump.
The number I heard was 100,000, but that again, I didn't see anything in writing.
Maybe 100 grand was what they actually managed to get in terms of GUSD. But I mean, say they did have 100 grand worth of packs. So what's that, say 20,000 packs potentially? So I mean, if they converted it all to packs, if they suddenly started dumping that on the market, then I think that would be wrong. That would go from being a bit of a grey area to kind of profit. But if it's just doing it for holding it for a long term kind of gain, I think it's less.
Yeah.
Because the community is not really going to feel a negative to it unless whatever they've done is dumped on the market. Fair enough if they use it to snap up, if they've got 100 grand and they try and buy 100 node licenses. That starts to get a bit dodgy then because they're going to get a big share of that, and it's a controlling share, isn't it, of what's going on?
I heard that one of the concerns raised by Gank, at least, and this is unproven because we don't know how they acted with the assets. Like, did they go buy packs? Did they liquidate the packs? We don't know. But if you were to, for instance, accumulate a bunch of packs and then sit on the packs, you're going to receive more and more of the token as a result of the airdrop from holding those packs. And that in it, you are then, in some sense, it's like, it feels like the way, like the U.S. Federal Reserve will print money and they get the first spend of that value. And so, and then everyone else, I guess, is punished by the inflation that is created when the Fed does that. But the Fed spends $1 for $1's value. But then once it's into the economy, $1 really is only 90 cents or whatever. And there is an analogy there, I think, if that's what's happening. Let's say you did get 20,000 packs out of this deal, and then you are just sitting on those. You're gonna receive it now a disproportionate value of the GLX and whatnot tokens to follow. Again, it's not illegal. It's a tough situation. I can't say that I want to defend the guy. I also can't say that I want to have him lynched or kicked out of anything like that. To me, it's like, oof. I certainly wouldn't. I want to say it this way. I don't believe I would act in that way once I feel I've made a sort of name in the community, and I hope that that's true. I hope I'm not just saying that to I don't know, toot my own horn or whatever, like make myself sound, I guess, scrupulous or whatever. Yeah. But actually, let's move on to a different topic because, like I said earlier, we arranged a really significant, or I mean, I guess I arranged, but you really were instrumental in helping me facilitate the large bulk buy that we did with my D Cunningham account, and we did. I think it was 69,000 packs in the end of it. We've recently finished all of the airdrops distribution, and we're really getting close. Are we? Where are we at? Let's see. How's this leaderboard going?
If there's been a few buys today, if you go back, you can see how many packs there are left as well. I think it's 87,000.
Okay, let's go back.
So if you go back to where it was, and then it's just under where it says Chaos Legion pack. There you go.
Chaos Legion.
83,000.
Oh yeah, 83,057. So I mean, we're with 25,000 being burned daily, despite like depending on how the leaderboard is and the race for the leaderboard goes. This is practically done. And we've been when did this start? Was this 2022 or 2021?
The pre-sale was 2021, wasn't it? I think
it was. You're right. It was November.
The general sale starting. Was it January or February 2022?
Yeah, I think it was I think Dr. Blight might have been.
Time ago.
I think November 2021 was like or maybe even late October was where Dr. Blight's were. That whole thing was just beginning and being released and whatnot. So I mean, what is that? One pretty darn near 1.5 years, almost exactly. A little bit shy of that, I guess. And man, I don't know if we hadn't been burning. I think we would still be really stagnating. And I wonder what you think about that. I think the 25,000 a day really helped get us to the next 100,000 or next million. Not that it pushed us to any one of the next millions, but it got the ball rolling where then some community excitement gathers to get the last airdrop. Not just the last one, but let's see, where are the airdrops? Even, I think we started burning maybe around Immortalis or just after. And I think as that's happening, you're like, okay, I got to get the next one. So then there's a bit, it triggers the FOMO maybe. Do you agree that that's probably the case, or what do you think about that?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think the good chunk of what's happened is because of what we've burnt. I mean, I think is there a tracker on, is it Splinter Cards? And somewhere that tracks the number of packs burnt.
They do, yeah. I think it might be 2 mil, but let's see.
Millions, isn't it? I think, there's a lot.
Splinter, I think it might be on the homepage.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere on the front, isn't it?
Chaos Legion. And then look, burnt 2.5. But of this 2.5 million, that includes the number of packs that were just, I guess, in some sense gifted to Nifty Arcades for the facilitating of those bronze packs. So I think it's actually 2 million.
2 million.
But hang on. This also, I think this number, I believe, includes whatever was set aside, 600,000 or something set aside, isn't it? Remember, we set aside 600,000 to cover the next 6 months, so we have packs inside.
There was a number, wasn't there, as well set aside as well. Yeah, it could include that.
So I don't. The short answer is I don't know, but it's.
No, I don't think it could include. No, it can't. I would like to think it doesn't include those because, if anything, they should be down and circulating. Obviously, with the potential to be burnt if they're not distributed. Whereas to include, you shouldn't really be putting things into burnt and then bringing them back, should you?
I think you're right. You're right. Yeah.
On how you count it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they structured that exactly, but because I know that obviously I was tracking sales on a daily basis early on for a good chunk of the process, and we weren't selling many packs at all on a daily basis. I think without this burn, I think we'd have still been trying to sell it by Christmas next year.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd have gone at all, and I'd be interested to see what they do with the Rift set as well. Because it's not. I think if we can get kind of DEC closer to peg, because I voted no on the allowing the sales to be with DEC on that. But I think if we were closer to peg, I think it would be better to say not just for that, but for all future sets that DEC is acceptable.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only difference though here is that the assets are ending up in the DAO, and if we fill the DAO with DEC, then we have to worry about dealing with that. At some point, we have to sell to ourselves because that crypto is now in the DAO, and the DAO wants to eventually spend those assets so that they can facilitate other development within the game or whatever the case may be, and that's going to then essentially mean they're sold on the head of the players. Which would probably cause, I would think, unless it's executed brilliantly, it's gonna be a problem due to the liquidity we have. Do you know what I mean? If we get If
Yeah.
we put, a billion DEC in there or something, it's going to be I forget how many I think there's 6 billion DEC. If we put 500 million DEC in there, it's going to be a problem in terms of how do we exit that at some point in the future. And one more note, I said no to it too, but I do think I would support and if DEC was closer to peg, because one of my concerns was that I didn't want to see a massive discount on this relatively small, right? It's only 3 million, 3 million issuance. We got through, people feel that we had too many Chaos Legion packs. And I guess in some sense we did, because we burnt 2.5 million. But here's the thing. We sold 14 or what is it? 12.9. No, I guess whatever, 12 and a half or something million we sold. And people felt like we did 1.5 million Untamed packs, and it took roughly, I think, a year and a half. And then we sold 12.5, roughly, 13.5 or something, whatever it was for Chaos Legion. And it was roughly the same time. It was practically a 10x of the packs. I feel as though there was a lot of kind of, let's say, arguing that there was way too many Chaos Legion packs, and I think perhaps there was slightly too many. And my view, a reason for bringing that up, is that I think similarly, people are feeling like these Rift Watchers are never going to sell. I actually think once Chaos Legion's out of the way, and we're days away now, I think this is the last kind of thing, really. And I do think it starts to move. But then, when's Rebellion coming? That's the next question.
Yeah, I hope that they decide to leave at least kind of 18 months between sets, because I know Aggie talked about aiming for 12 months, hadn't it, between core sets, 9-month sales, then a 3-month kind of window without any packs, and then onto the next set. I think that'd be just a bit too much of a turnaround for people.
Yeah.
I also think that part of the reason why Rift hasn't sold out is because of the increase in cost. Because it's $5, isn't it, versus the $4 for Chaos Legion. Plus Chaos Legion's technically $4, but you can buy in DEC, which has often been up to 50% below peg.
Yeah.
So then you're paying only $2 or $3 a pack, which is obviously much preferable to paying $5.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Rift Watcher, you have to pay an SPS too.
Yeah.
And I think people are loath to let their SPS go at these price points. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, well, I've not spent any of my SPS that I've got saved up on Rift. Or my only kind of source of Rift packs has been to say, I've got outside money that I want to bring in. So I've brought in dollars, and then I've converted that into SPS, and I've bought with it straight away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to sell what I've held, because obviously it's down so much from where it was. And I think a lot of people see it that way.
Yeah, I agree. 2.3 cents now, 2.35 cents. This is getting pretty low, man. And I don't know if this is I think this might be touching the previous. Looks like we had somewhere in there on January 1st, 2023, we had 0.22 cents, 2.2 cents. But that's I'm no chart analyst, but this does feel like, especially like the volume's lower.
Yeah.
We are either we're bottoming out, or we potentially are flirting with a new lower low.
I think it'll go lower.
Yeah.
I think, cause isn't the is Tower Defense giving out SPS as well? Is that what we're getting paid for in that?
I don't know. I don't own any Tower Defense packs at all.
I remember. I've got a few packs. I've got enough to get into the beta.
Let's go over here.
I ended up getting some more GLUS, what they call it, GLX, but whatever the GLX packs are. Ended up buying some of the. As it happens, I bought some of those just before the gene pools buy triggered. So if I'd have waited about 12 hours and been awake, I could have got three times the amount of packs for the same cost. But I wasn't salty.
Yeah.
At least I try not to be.
That's right. I want to see the SPS airdrops screen, but I'm just logged out here. Something's going on. Log in. I'm pretty sure I know we're getting SPS airdropped for each plot of land. I think it's just roughly one. And then I think.
Well, no, there is some being paid out for holding
Nightmare
TD
packs.
The Nightmare packs. But what I was wondering, when the game goes live, are the rewards also going to be paid out in SPS?
Oh,
Is
I
it
don't.
kind of a
Ooh,
is it
good question.
is it across both games? For some reason, something in the back of my mind says it is, but I don't know if I've just completely made that up or whether, because I think that's why I think there's a few more sources of DEC, of SPS coming out, which is why I think the price could go lower. I mean, if it gets down to 1 cent, I'll be doing my best to fill my bags.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it could go lower from there, but I mean, how much lower could it work? What are we at? What
Yeah,
would the market cap be if it drops all the way down there?
yeah, and at some point, like, to me, 1 cent was always a possibility, and
It's 11 million market cap at the moment.
is it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's still in the when I first got into crypto, I always the people I would listen to would talk about anything under like 20 million is like, a real like micro market, and it doesn't take much to really sway those things, and that's where you can have these massive multiplications of what you invested. But of course, theoretically they're that small because there's a ton of risk, there's a ton of unknown, there's a ton of possibility for failure. And I was just talking I guess with the members yesterday about land and the idea that it's very speculative, and I think there's still a ton of things within Splinterlands SPS and its governance, and whether it's SPS staking on players, whether it's how much is necessary, how it works with land, because we were told maybe you can mine your land to extract more SPS. There's just a ton of question marks that are going to radically change the economy of this game over the next, I think, 6 weeks, even to the next 6 months probably. And to be honest, I feel as though there is risk in it. Like, there's concern around it, but obviously I'm excited to take on that risk, because I think one thing you got to remember whenever we say the word risk, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Risk is opportunity for if you position yourself properly. Are you concerned about maybe the transition as we move into a place where the game is going to necessitate SPS staking on every account? Are you worried about them navigating how many at bronze, how many at silver, how many at gold? Are they going to get it right? What about land and how that's going to be rewarded? Because they do want to do a proposal for mining SPS out of the land. Thoughts, concerns?
God, lots across the board there, really. I'm quite looking forward to some of the new stuff coming out, but it's going to be so critical for them to do the best to get it right. Obviously, now with the land's been waited on. I mean, it's been waited on for me by a long time, and I only started the game in August 21. So for me, it's only been just over a year and a half. Some people, it's been longer. It's the kind of thing that I don't know if it'd make or break the ecosystem, but it'll certainly go a long way. Because it's going to be such a finely balanced system to get it to work where everybody's happy with what they're getting.
Yeah.
Because you need to feel rewarded for what you're putting in. And you can see that the cost of having a plot and kind of working that plot is gradually creeping up now. You've got your buildings to build on it, you've got your monsters to stake, you've got your DAC to stake, all these kind of costs going into one plot. And you're thinking, okay, well, I've got that one plot, and all it's doing is generating me some lumber, which is one of the 20 resources that I need in land. Is that one resource really going to be worth the hundreds of dollars I've put into developing my one plot?
Yeah.
What's the ROI or the return going to look like on that? And if they're not very careful with how they're doing it, people are going to put tens of thousands into it, and then they're getting trickles, kind of like 1% ROI back on what they've put in,
Yeah.
and they won't be happy. But if they can nail it, if they can get a fair balance of kind of time investment and financial investment versus what people can generate back out of it again, I think it could do very well, and it could trigger people coming into the game from outside as well, because it could ultimately be a game in itself. I know one of the big games, not even last year now, it might have been the 2021. It was essentially I can't remember what it was called now. The entire game was just interacting with contracts. It had kind of an overlay on it, like kind of pixel art kind of style, so people felt like they were playing a game where all they were really doing was kind of staking. And moving money around it, but people were absolutely all over it. So if they can do something similar with Splinterlands, it's going to be prettier.
Yeah.
And they could use land as an on-ramp for people into the space, but ideally it needs to be during a bull market. You're not going to get people throwing hundreds or thousands of dollars at a game
Hmm.
to come and play when the markets are like they are. I wouldn't have thought.
You said a couple things that I want to touch on. One, like how incentivizing will, or how will we incentivize those to come play with the land? And I think traditionally, when we see anything land launch, whether we look at SPS APR or whether we look at every token that's ever kind of dropped in this manner, GLX is the same thing. Every airdrop is always the same. The APR available in the first days, weeks, hours, days, weeks is massive. You get like hundreds of percent. Usually, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if there was 400% APR opportunities from the land staking or quote unquote mining opportunities that are available in the early going because of a couple of
yeah,
reasons. One, they're going to make the rewards fairly juicy. But then two, there will only be a smaller proportion, like an incomplete number of the plots of land will be activated in the early going. And so while people are spooling up their activity and activating their plots of land, there'll be this opening massive sort of reward because whatever pool of rewards exists is being divided between fewer plots that are active, and then more and more plots become active, and then the APR drops down. And I think over a year and a half, you start to see going from, because we used to be over 400% on the APR for SPS, now we're at 22%. I think that's what we probably can expect with land. So I do think that's exciting. And one more quick thing before I ask for your comments here. You said it would be best if that was all happening when there's a bull market. And one thing I'm actually beginning to think, is maybe we're going to spark a bull market within our game. And maybe that doesn't affect the broader market, but just simply because of if land is what they're saying it's going to be, the amount of card assets that are going to be sunk into the staking on these land plots should present a problem in the form of supply issue, whether it's market supply for rental cards or market supply for purchasing, like people acquiring decks. And I think that would translate to card price appreciation, which necessitates rental card appreciation, which I think is going to drive the value of certain of people who've been here for a year and a half, 2 years, 4 years. Your portfolio is going to appreciate wildly as a result of that. If that happens, it's going to spark conversation on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, and that's going to be a FOMO moment where people rush in, because that's what happened in 2020 or whenever this
yeah.
thing kind of. So what do you think about those two parts around SPS rewards being huge, probably in the beginning of land, and then secondly, could what land represents maybe trigger a bull market for cards, and then what would that do for Splinterlands?
I think looking at the second part of what you were talking about first,
Okay.
It's difficult because I think everything's always going to do significantly better in a bull market, because I think there's so much more money floating around, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
I know personally that when I got into Splinterlands, I was just throwing money into various things as soon as they cropped up because I had to spare money. Whereas now, if I want to, I have to move money around now. I have to carefully liquidate and sell something to buy something else.
Yeah.
It's so much easier when there's just money coming out all over the place. And I think it will. I think that, it could trigger something if land is going to be as good as what keeps getting promised. I'm just more fearful of the opposite happening. I think the risk is greater to me of it going badly and it kind of peeing a lot of people off rather than what it could trigger. But hopefully, that's just kind of the pessimist in me. I'm hoping that I'm wrong and that it does do very well. But yeah, on the SPS front, I'll be interested to see how they actually do it, because I think are the only rewards that are going to come out from kind of mining XPS the ones that are currently being issued to landholders just for holding it, or is there additional rewards as well on top of that?
They've said that Matt said that he's gonna make a. You remember they've spoken about how they want to, I guess, issue elements of land before land is really fully playable. And one of those suggestions that they've obviously been kicking around, because he said, we'll make a proposal that you'll need cards on your land to mine SPS out of the land, which would move SPS rewards away from like a passive you own land, here's a
Yeah.
certain amount of SPS, to you actively mine the land, you receive a broader proportion of the total amount of available rewards. And like I said earlier about SPS rewards being maximal bigger at when something launches, I think that'll be a transition moment where some people aren't paying attention as closely as you or me, and they're just gonna like they are gonna miss the first days, weeks, months maybe, and then they're gonna be activating land, and then they'll be mining. So I think if we're paying attention and if we're voting yes, and I get the feeling that that would be a proposal that would pass, because one, it's going to mean that it's a little bit more utility for land. Two, it's going to really increase or encourage the people who are paying attention, who are actually playing the game, who are actually acquiring more assets, including SPS, are probably the ones that are looking forward to extracting more value from this. So I think it's like, hey, do you guys want more rewards? If you're here, you're going to say, yeah, we want more rewards. And if you're not, you're not here to say no. So I think that's a sort of proposal that would pass. What do you think? Would that sort of thing pass?
I reckon so. Yeah. I mean, we're only looking at what are we in about around 48. I think that we've not
48.
Claimed is it about a third?
Yeah.
I know the tracts are up to, because I've got a tract to claim, and I think it's about 48. And like everybody else, I think everybody's waiting for more of that central region out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And they've just stalled. Nobody's bothering anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we're down here.
I mean,
We're down here in the
I'd be happy
corner.
with a proposal like that.
Yeah, we're down here in the corner, and I think you're right. People are waiting for here. That actually makes me. I don't know if you were going to finish your thought there, but I want to know also, what do you think? Like, when do you want to claim land? And I think it would be great if we started a conversation. Like, I know some of the TNA guys are like, let's do it together. I know Aftersound's talking about doing it with a group of people. I know Walking Keys and Gank. I think it's really wise to do it with a group of people that are actually playing this game and, attentive to what's going on, so that you get, let's say a cohort of people that are intentional about developing it and developing the keeps and the castles. It becomes more cooperative, as opposed to, I hope I get a good group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one thought I just had then, just thinking about what you're talking about, kind of staking monsters to mine your plots. I mean, I don't know whether you need to build like a mine building to actually do that, or whether they just go out and do it themselves. But it'd be quite cool, perhaps, if you found a region that was kind of unowned, essentially, so that maybe somebody has bought the region and the tract, the plot, but never claimed it or used it, do anything with it. So it's not an unowned region. If that's not occupied, you can still send 5 monsters there to mine the SPS that would be in that region. But then maybe a percentage of it goes back. Maybe 20% of it goes to the castle holder of that region.
Yeah.
And maybe 10% of it goes to the keep holder of that tract.
Yeah.
But
Smart.
then maybe you get to keep some. So basically, at least then all the plots eventually can get worked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a great idea, because I think if you look at Bitcoin, for instance, and every cryptocurrency project, people lose their keys, people pass away, people go, they, for whatever reason, they lose interest, and there will be a certain number of plots over the last 2 years of planning and execution where they'll just never be activated. And so we need to think that through. And what you just said makes some sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you own an entire region, which is obviously 1,000 plots, and if you then get, even if it's only 10%, if you get 10% of all the SPS mined in your region, that's not bad. That is then passive income for doing nothing, isn't it? But then it comes back to the point then, is how much land do you actually want to own? Yeah. I think Gank's got a region, hasn't he?
He does.
But then if you own your own region, obviously you're only earning your 10% cut on what you already own. So that's actually not good. Then you almost want to diversify and you want to swap some of your land with other people. You want people to come into yours and help you build up that area, rather than having to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
Obviously, a tract is quite a daunting prospect, but I mean, a region's just obscene.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's somebody out there, I forget who it is, might be Dave McCoy, I forget who, somebody's got 2 regions, and it's like, I mean, holy cow. Just the monsters alone, let alone just getting it spun up with all that DEC cost. I want to be cognizant of the time. I know it's quite a bit later over there. I feel like we tackled a lot of things. We've been talking for about 40 minutes, and I think maybe we should wrap there. But just Any last thoughts on like whether it's SPS, land, card prices, Chaos Legion, anything, or even the controversy around the GLX stuff? Like any, I guess, last minute comments.
Um, no, I suppose the only thing actually around the GLX stuff, we touched on the various things, what people weren't happy with, and I think that Gene Paul said he'd offered the team to kind of try and make things right in some way, and they said that he didn't need to, or they said not to, because I don't know if that would be kind of maybe admitting a mistake. But I know that if he had bought pure packs and he had all these packs on the sidelines, I'm sure he would then, if the community asked him to, he might then say divert some of the GLX stake and rewards from owning those packs into the GLX DAO,
Yeah.
which then could be reallocated accordingly. And I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to do something like that.
I mean, that's an upstanding thing of him to even come forward and be like, hey, like, do I, like, because really a nefarious actor is not going to give two hoots whether the community is upset with him.
Normally people wouldn't even put the name on it. You know what I mean? He's come forward and said, yes, it was me. I was involved in doing this, and I think people have kind of vilified him a bit for it.
Yeah.
But I think he'd happily kind of offer to make things right. 'Cause I don't think he realised the extent of the backlash.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's crypto, isn't it? So the backlash is probably going to go on for weeks or months or years. People don't tend to forgive and forget, did they really, in the space?
Yeah, it's kind of sad that way, actually. But that's why I really hope, like, I'm glad to have heard your side of the, this conversation. And also, my opinion, really, I'm more than anything else, like, I see no reason to, like you said, use the word vilify. Like that just is, it's without value, there's not going to be, it's like, hey, if we all agree, if we say mean words to him, like, is the situation going to be better? No, it's not. So, I mean, it sounds like if he's actually discussing with the team, like, how he could explore options, and then if the team is saying, frankly, they don't see that anything's been done, it is crypto and there's no rules that have been broken. It's just, he saw an opportunity.
Area, worst. And it's a grey area, and I think he would quite happily put things right. I just think it's. I'm sure it'll probably get worse before it gets better. But I think I think if we're in a bull market, I don't think people would bat an eyelid, would they?
That's right.
Although you'd have probably needed a couple of million or at least a couple of $100,000 to push price up, because the liquidity would have been much deeper, wouldn't it? But
yeah. Same thing has happened time and time again, and it will again and again in other ways with other cryptos, because crypto is crypto. It's a Wild West, guys. But let's finish here, because you know what? It's like, in all these things, someone will look at that and say, like, that's why I'm never touching crypto. And I would say that's why now is when you want to explore this space, because in this volatility, in these question marks, and in this uncertainty is, of course, risk, but there is no opportunity without risk. If everything is so established, and if this space is so, I guess, well invested, that the economy is not 5 million or 500,000, but it's 500 million or billion or something crazy like that, then you get to a place where there's no one actor can move it, but also you're not going to see the same bull run activity, the same magnification and multiplication of what you invest, because that opportunity is behind us, the risk is behind us. So I mean,
it's innovative and it's cutting edge, isn't it? So that there's always going to be issues. Things are always going to happen. On that area specifically, I don't think anybody's been truly hurt, apart from those that have sold off. And there are some people that are disappointed with it, and they've decided to sell all their assets, and they might have then taken a loss. Ultimately, I don't think anybody's been truly hurt, unless, well, I hope they haven't. I know effectively what's happened is he's got some assets at a lot better price than everybody else, which is frustrating. But to me, it's not the end of the world. I bought 1,000 packs, I think days before he did his buy, and it's not ideal, because I'd gone from having 100 packs to just over 1,000. So first step into the GLX ecosystem properly, kind of dip my toes in, but then it was a bit more of a jump in, and then a couple of days after, there's no way I could ever be involved in something like that, because with my luck, I would be more likely to buy the top than be involved in the pump.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Me too. We are, like I said, we're buying Chaos Legion packs when vouchers were worth $20. So,
Yeah,
so we. But you know
that
what?
wasn't pretty.
No, but you know what? Those packs have been appreciating from $1.50 to $2.30 in the last 3 months, and I don't think we've seen the highest highs for those things yet. So patience and all things come to those who wait, they say. So all good things for those who wait. But Dark.Star, thanks for coming to hang out today, and thanks for everything you do for time and attention, as well as me personally. And I really hope that you'll come on again. We can talk more about different Splinterlands. And yeah, man, thanks for everything.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, bye guys. Thanks so much.